Dat zijn natuurlijk mooie kreten om een zaal vol te krijgen. Ik ben erg benieuwd wat hij erover gaat vertellen. John, would you be so kind to enter the stage, please? Give him a hand. He came all the way from London and Germany here to Rotterdam.
Well, thank you. Can everyone hear me in the back? This is Psychology 101. It kind of reminds me of a university lecture hall. So, well, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me and on behalf of my friends at Clearsense. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about, well, actually, I want you to tell me what you want to talk about today. I can either talk about online marketing and optimization, or I can talk about technology. So who wants to talk about technology? 4, 5, okay. And online marketing? Okay. Well, we've just done our first A/B test, okay? And I think the success, I'm really glad the answer is there because that's what I have. But for those of you who do want to talk about technology, I'm at the Clearsense booth all afternoon where we have some fantastic oysters and champagne. So if you all want to come back there, that would be fantastic. So we're going to talk about online marketing, business, money, making money. And speaking of money, there's a lot of money that's being spent, and a lot of discussions you've had today and have been around acquisition, getting people to your site, and trying to get them there in the most efficient way, getting the right people that you want to your site. And yet, conversion rates remain, on average, less than 4%. So, have you been thinking about converting? Is really, I'm not saying in a religious way or anything, but if you're converting, that's really the key success factor. Whatever that may be for you. I don't know if some of you are from media organizations or retail or finance or technology. There's a lot of things to think about within that group. And the way we like to think about conversion, well, actually, just going back, to me, to have that much money being spent and only 4% of the people converting, from a business sense, we call that anticipation. And it basically is the sense of loss that you get when you lose potential money. And this is what it looks like number-wise throughout the user experience, perhaps. So the percentage of people coming and seeing and coming into your site from whether they come from an email or a display ad, and then they come through various other pages that you're taking them through in the user experience, and then they ultimately they convert, and then a certain percentage will actually come back. You don't even know. And so the real question is, how can you, based on the fact that you actually know information about people, you know where they came from, you know a lot about them, how can you then change the user experience to really get that number up at the end? And get each of these numbers up at each of those levels. So I represent a solution called Test and Target, which is both a testing and a targeting tool. So you see where our name came from, right? It's very creative. And the idea is that we need to test before we know anything. But this is this is a circle that keeps going around and round, and the faster and the more times it can go around, the more money you should be able to make, and the more relevance you'll have for your customers. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. What I will talk about is what some of our 350-odd customers around the world have been telling us from the thousands and thousands of tests that they've been running, and not just tests, but campaigns. What they've told us first is that really the concept of the site is dead. Okay? Static designs and redesigns. I don't know how many of you said, "Oh, we're going through our site redesign." Okay, well, what are you redesigning it to, and how do you know that what you're redesigning it to is actually going to make more money until it goes live? Well, you don't, and that's a huge gamble. And for many organizations, that is a massive gamble, and we would suggest a gamble that you really can't afford to take. The concept that we have is, as you're designing your site, think about the options you may have, and think about the people coming to your site before you design it. And then start testing. And we use a technology, it's basically just a tag on your site, we call it an M-box, which allows you to swap content. So let's say recipe A versus recipe B. and then test to see when those content with A or B are present, what happens to that user. Do they convert? Do they register? Do they spend more time on site than they would have otherwise? Do they spend more money? Do they buy the more profitable products? And so forth. So that's the basic concept. But really, the reasons, or the decision you make about what goes on that site today, the question is really who decides that content. Is it, I imagine you're sitting around a table like this, and there's people around the table. And I imagine some of these people are probably at that table helping you make that decision. Is there anyone that disagrees with me? Whether it's the director of online marketing, your IT director, if it's a retail site, maybe the head of merchandising or sales. If you're a financial site, your legal team's definitely there, right? And if you're a small organization or an organization with a massively, egoed senior person, your CEO will be in the room too, right? And guess who gets to make the final decision? Any guesses? The highest in charge, or the best paid person usually, right? Or the person in charge, actually, which may not be the same person. And that's what ends up happening. But really, who is closest to the customer? And I'm going to bring up an old friend of mine from the past, and this is the Greek philosopher Socrates. My family's originally from Greece, which is why my name does not sound Dutch or Canadian or anything. And he had a statement that said, "I know that I know nothing." And when you know that you know nothing, you start to question. And that's the Socratic method in law, and that's why interrogation works so well. But the real thing is that you know nothing, so you have to question, you have to test. And who are you testing to? So really the people who are the closest to the customer is in fact the customer. You need to let your customer decide what content should be on it. And they're going to tell you based not only on their opinion, because you can ask a survey or you can do a focus group and they'll tell you what they are going to do. But as we all know from reading political polls and so forth, it's not 100% accurate. So what they do though, the action they take at the end is basically 100% accurate because they always are doing what they're doing. This idea of guessing is something that our clients are always asking us about. And I remember someone mentioning to me that, any decision that you make around this table here is just a guess. The movie Star Wars that came out in 1977 and then subsequently has had 5 extra episodes afterwards. It was rejected by every major movie studio in Hollywood until 20th Century Fox picked it up and has subsequently made 1.7 billion euros as a result. But all those people were incredibly bright people that subsequently had picked other movies that worked and so forth. So what was the decision criteria that they made that decision on? Basically, it was a hunch, a guess, intuition. And we would suggest that basically, to paraphrase Socrates, that no one knows anything. Any kind of testing is better than guessing. So now I'm going to let you guys and ladies guess a little bit. This is a client of ours who is called Skype. And this is their UK homepage. Well, sorry, this is one option for a UK homepage. The marketing team got together with the IT team, and we're debating around the table like this, which kind of content should they put on their homepage. Now, their business objective, and it's always important to have a business objective before you start designing your page, was to maximize the downloads of Skype. Okay? That's the basic method. Sorry, the success metric. So the marketing team wanted this one A here, which had a lot of feature content. It had, a picture of the product working. It had, some buttons here, and they debated about these buttons forever, right? This little title here, this picture of this couple almost kissing, I guess, or talking, and then there's a rainbow here, a little bigger, but it's a little simpler in this one. The IT team actually wanted this one. Maybe you can guess why. But they actually didn't want this one at all. What they wanted was a big button in the middle that said download Skype. And that's it, right? Keep it simple. So, I will ask you, who are, I imagine, except for the 5 people that put their hands up, all business-oriented people who will get, fired if sales don't continue to rise. Which of the three do you think maximize the downloads of Skype? So who would guess A? All right, I'm going to say about 23% of the room. Okay, it's an average guess. B? Wow. Okay, I'm seeing about 65, I guess. And anyone C? All right. Of the people who said they were technology-focused people, did you all say C? Yeah, good, okay. At least you're consistent. Okay, well, I'm going to vindicate you, and then I'm going to tear you down, okay? As we always do in these organizations. So the correct answer, in terms of, they did a test. We did what's called an ABC test, and we sent this out to the entire audience of the UK traffic. And when it came through, the correct answer was actually C, right? You happy? Okay? However, C was the best across the entire organization. And I think it was about a 5% increase in total downloads, which for Skype was awesome. They were completely blown away by this. But it turns out that actually, if you split the traffic up in terms of the source of where they came from, the people who were really focused on this choice C, were the people who had organically just sort of typed in the URL. Okay, they didn't come from anywhere else. There was another group of people that really had just gone into Google and typed in free internet telephony. And they came across this thing called Skype, okay? And then they, and then, over here, they preferred this one. In fact, this group preferred this one and had an increase of, I think it was 29% increase in conversion rate with this one over that one. Okay? So the real point is that segmentation is crucial to maximizing the return that you have. Okay? Relevance. Okay? Make it relevant to the content. And we see this in real life as well. Real life. The offline life as well. Has anyone had a Coke Zero before? Okay. And if those same people, have you also had Diet Coke? Do you know what the difference is? Yeah. The difference is the Coke Zero is marketed towards men. Diet Coke is marketed towards, well, it used to be everyone, and now more directed towards women. So they've focused their marketing efforts, and as a result of that very minute focus, and with some sort of tagline of some added, nutrients and good karma, they've increased their profits. Increased their profit by 14%. This is Coke. It's a very stable, flat sort of organization. They increased 14% just by understanding segmentation and pitching a slightly different offer or slightly different message with basically the same product. Okay? And that really means that segmentation and targeting is absolutely crucial. It's the key. It's the reason you should be thinking every day, how can I get closer to my customers? So there's a lot of different ways we can do it. There's a lot of different, and then there's more than these. These are sort of examples. So, for example, did someone come from a specific banner ad, with a specific message on it? From a search term, from an email, from which affiliate site did they come from? And then other parameters that we can filter when someone comes on. Have they had past transactions? Have they registered already with their site? Where have they really spent most of their time on our site in the past? So across sessions, we can build up a very easy profile. We do that in a number of different ways, but predominantly through first-party cookies and so forth. We can also capture data around inside the database once people have logged in. But then other third-party information: time of day, day of week, where someone lives. These are potential segments, really, really relevant. Well, actually, maybe they're relevant or maybe they're not relevant. I don't know, because I know that I know nothing. There are opportunities for you to test to see whether these things are relevant, and when they are, see if they're relevant and impactful enough for you to make more money off of. This is an example of a client of ours called eHarmony. They're not a dating site per se. They are a relationship site for people to find their love of their life. not the love of the week. This was their original homepage. And what people were doing is they were going in and, for instance, saying, I'm a man looking for a woman. And then they started playing around, but they never signed up. And then they left. But at least we knew that they were a man looking for a woman. So that was part of a little cookie that we placed for them. And then the next time they came back, they said, okay, let's test some different pictures. And because the problem was they weren't really seeing any difference between men and women. So they came here and they showed a picture of a woman. Okay, this isn't like rocket science here, right? But it's a very interesting point. They also tested blondes, brunettes, redheads, okay, and different ethnicities, and different ages, right? And this lady won. And actually, it's really important. This is actually 7% increase in conversions just off doing that one test. That took about 3 hours to execute. Now they had to build that other creative. They had to take that picture of this lady here. That's all they had to do. And then set the tag in the site, test it, run it, execute it, and then hit target, and it ran. That's how fast it can get started. To get a 7% increase of conversion rates across men. An interesting thing, though, and the point that no one knows anything, is that there were actually 4 guys who were doing this. They actually optimized. They said, we'll just put pictures of guys for the girls then. And actually it turned out that the women didn't want to see any of the guys. They wanted to see this couple here successfully hugging and loving each other and whatever. So I'm not sure what that means. But so now we're getting into, are you starting to feel sort of the concept of specific targets, specific relevance, and the different places on your site where that's going to occur? This can occur across sessions. It can go across multiple pages in your site, all the way down to your conversion rate, your registration path, the forms you use in your registration path, to widen that funnel at all levels. Okay? But the idea, again, relevance is key. So this is a client of ours called Musician's Friend, which sells musical equipment. And if I've gone onto the site, and let's say I go onto the guitar section, and I download, or I look at a bunch of guitars, I see some pictures, I download some historical information about Jimmy Page or Jimi Hendrix or Jimmy Buffett, and I go back and forth, and then I leave the site, but I haven't bought a guitar yet. The next time I go to the site, incidentally, I can, you put relevance because you know that I have an affinity for that particular category. I spent enough time. And you can determine, maybe not just they've gone to the guitar section once, but they've spent X amount of time, they've looked at various pages and so forth, and they have a specific affinity. Okay? That was a massive increase in conversion rate for that particular segment. Okay? The interesting thing is, had they actually bought a guitar and then came back to the site, well, they can show pictures of amplifiers, right? Or music for guitar playing or some other cross-sell or upsell or guitar cases. And that could be for anything. It could be for, bass guitars. It can be for, keyboards. The key is that, if you're a retailer, how many times does the guy who runs the keyboard department for this site get this much front billing on the homepage? Pretty rarely, right? But the only time he really wants is when he knows that the keyboard people have come. And they haven't bought anything yet, and they've come back. Imagine you're in a store, and the person comes in 5 times. The 5th time he comes in, and they spend all their time at this section. You want to be pitching those offers. And you can test, again. The point is you can test which offers to those keyboard people maximizes the conversion. Okay? Now this is a very basic sort of slide, and I apologize for the crudeness of it, but you can get an increase in conversion rate by just testing across your group, and we'll get an answer that says 5% increase on A, B, or C. Okay, but if you have different segments and you can find the optimal answer for each of those segments, you can start making money for each of those groups and multiplying the value, and that's the goal. Okay, not only that, but it's not only doing a lot of segments and segmenting perfectly, it's doing it a lot of times. So frequency matters a tremendous amount. I would say that testing once is a result. You get an answer. But testing continuously and optimizing continuously is a strategy. It's a strategy for maximizing the potential relevance to your clients. And that drives value. So the last thing I'm just going to show you is an example of a process that a client took, and there are many more processes they've taken. This is the first two. This is a client called Intuit, which sells an accounting software called QuickBooks. And they went to their creative agency and said, we're going to start with format here. Can you build us 3 completely different creative concepts for our homepage? And you'll notice that the content's actually pretty much the same. It's just that the words and so forth are the same, but the layout is completely different. And they did this very quickly, and they do have a lot of volume on their site, and they noticed that they got a tremendous lift in conversion rate within a very short period of time. And then they went into this page, and they said, well, how do we... Let's go in and let's do like a multivariate test. Let's see which actual element is most relevant in here, and let's optimize. Let's see, why this one was actually the most important. And what they found that the picture of the woman or another picture which was not there was actually the most important feature, or this thing that says "try it for free" was the most important aspect. And these bullets, which took 4 hours to agree upon the words, were completely irrelevant, to conversion. So you can find that out very, very quickly as well. And in fact, in about 20 days, this particular example, so the woman's gone now, just a picture of this little click through the online edition of this software, that was the tag word that people apparently were looking for. They got an increase in 35% lift across all users in revenue per visitor within 20 days. And that's a follow-on learning. They're now drilling down into the registration path, because the registration path was something like 11 pages. And they're just buying software, so why should it be so complex? And what can we do to maximize the final conversion? So, again, a kind of a silly slide, I guess. The idea is that frequency drives the return on investment. Doing a test does not give you, it's not the end of the game, it's the beginning of the game. Our solution is designed for you to do multiple campaigns and keep them running on an ongoing basis, because you always have people coming from different groups, and so you want to keep it optimized on an ongoing basis no matter what you're doing. The other thing about frequency and speed is that things change. Seasons change. Your marketing messages change. Your competitors are changing after they see what you're doing. To take 2, 3, 4 months to run tests and so forth and get results and act on them is a long time. Our solution allows you to optimize and actually run multiple campaigns within the same group without having to go and burden the IT team. Once they've set that tag once, they can sort of forget about it, and they know that it's safe for you to put in other content within there. So just in summary, the idea here is that what our clients have been telling us is that really, do you test the visitor experience? And it's the marketer that's doing it. Our goal is to empower you as the marketer. Okay? You have these great ideas. You know, because you've done some research, that you think you know that these messages are going to be best. But let's test them. And then what you can do is segment to see the effect on different customer segments of different content. And then once you figure out which one is the winner, you target that. And you can target it to each segment with the best experience. The real great thing is you can automate this process so you don't have to do anything else except get your promotion and become the senior vice president or whatever. But the idea is that you automate the process and you repeat it. And as you repeat it, you're continually learning because things are changing as well. And we can automate when things change, we can then push other content if things are actually changing. And that's all I had to say. Before I ask any questions, I'll just repeat. Who doesn't like oysters, by the way? Hands up. People don't like oysters? Tall, big, up high? Okay, people who don't like oysters, keep your hands up for a moment. Who also doesn't like champagne? Okay, you 3 are not invited. Everyone else is invited to booth Z17, the Clearsense booth. So, thank you very much. But if there are any questions, let's take it. Questions? Questions? No?
We can do 2 questions.
One over there.
Yeah.
His hand is still up there, right there. Keep walking straight. There you go.
Could you start?
The gentleman has been tapping on his computer the whole day. That's good.
What about the cost of doing A/B tests? Because creating a homepage or creating 3 homepages costs a whole lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, the question is, how much is it worth to you to optimize a homepage? In other words, if you spend $1,000 or $5,000 or $50,000 to create a new homepage, the value of getting a better homepage better be worth at least that. To that level, and for the most part, it very much is. We can talk to you about costs and so forth offline, but the ROI, the best thing about the tool is the ROI is in the product. The report tells you how much more money you're making off of C or off of B, so you can actually tell when you've done it how much more money you've made.
Right, the last question from the audience. Could be also on oysters or champagne. At what time do you serve them? Now.
I'll be there now, so anyone wants to join me?
Oké, de mensen die hier blijven, die blijven dan zitten voor de presentatie van Harold Polak van Accenture. Dit was in ieder geval John Avenaitis van Clearsense. Geef nog even een applaus.
Thank you very much.